This is going to be a great event tomorrow with Americans for Prosperity Foundation. You spent 10 years with President Reagan. First of all, how do you get a job like that?
It was an incredible opportunity of a lifetime, and I think Ronald Reagan showed us when you dream big and you work hard to pursue your dreams that anything can happen, and his life was testimony to that. And I guess in my own Only in America story, I found myself at the feet of greatness and got to serve an incredible man who served our country so well and served the entire world, and it was truly an honor and a privilege.
Peggy Grande with us. It's Riley and Scott here on WROK. Over those 10 years, what kind of things were you responsible for working with the president?
Well, I would say that, the ordinary things were part of my job too, but there's nothing ordinary really about every signature being historic and every visitor being somebody amazing. So it was everything from inviting in members of the public who had written into him to visiting heads of state. And the heads of state were really incredible to see because this was post-presidency. There was nothing diplomatically required for them to come and visit him, but there was that personal connection and relationship that he had established while he was president. And these people meant something to him personally, not just on the political stage. And it was really wonderful to witness diplomacy up close and really how it fundamentally is all based on relationships. And he really believed in that.
I've heard from many people who had the opportunity to meet the president, work with the president, that he was behind the scenes the exact same person that you saw on TV, which I'm sure is actually one of the biggest reasons he was the great communicator. He was himself. He was just Ronald Reagan.
Absolutely. There were not two Ronald Reagans. Exactly who you thought and hoped and believed that he was. That's exactly who he was behind the scenes. And really that's the trademark of an incredible leader, is not just who you are when the cameras are rolling and when people are watching, but who you are privately behind the scenes when you think nobody is watching. And as an executive assistant, I'm always watching. And that was what I witnessed as well. And even people who maybe didn't like his politics couldn't help but really like him personally. He was very likable, very charming, and would just diffuse any sort of tension with anybody almost immediately. It was really wonderful to watch.
Peggy Grande with us, served as President Reagan's personal assistant for a decade after his presidency. She'll be in town in Dixon, 7:30 to 9:30 for the Americans for Prosperity Ronald Reagan Birthday Celebration Breakfast. If you want to attend, you can actually reserve some of the RSVP tickets online. We'll get the link up on our Twitter feed here in just a moment. Were there jelly beans all around the place?
Of course. Jelly Belly is a great American company, and they have always been very generous to President Reagan, to his staff, and even during the Reagan Centennial, we distributed Reagan Centennial beans all across the nation and around the world. And again, it's just a great American company, and he was always proud to be affiliated with them.
I have a 2-year-old, or nearly 2-year-old son at home, and a year or two ago, talked with Susan Allen, the wife of George Allen, who wrote a book about Ronald Reagan, the remarkable Ronald Reagan, and read that to him as a bedtime story from now and then. So hopefully he'll grow up knowing lots about the great Ronald Reagan. As I read the story, though, I think about his life and his story. Lifeguard, radio guy, actor, governor, president. But that transition from being a communicator in radio and TV and movies into being a public servant, did you ever talk to him about what called him to do that? What called him to move from being an entertainer to being someone who really was a leader?
His life story is so interesting, and people who say, "Oh, he was just an actor who turned president," really miss the beauty of his life. How all the puzzle pieces of his life fit together so beautifully. Even when he was president of the Screen Actors Guild, when he was in Hollywood, that was during the Red Scare, and so he was already very aware of the threat of communism infiltrating, and was working out a system to clear the names of actors and actresses, which is how he met Mrs. Reagan. And he never intended to go into politics, but the people around him found him to be such a great listener to their concerns. He had a great way of communicating their ideas and really heartfelt care for the people around him. When he worked for GE, he made a tour all across the nation to all of the GE plants and listened to the people, listened to their concerns, and the people around him really almost forced him into politics. He never intended to go into it, but really that's what politics should be about. People, we the people, deciding who is best to represent our ideas, either in our state or our community or nationally.
Peggy Grande with us, COO of the Quiggle Group, but also President Reagan's personal assistant for a decade from 1989 through 1999. The Ronald Reagan Birthday Celebration Breakfast with Americans for Prosperity at the Brandywine Inn. It's happening at 7:30. You can head to eventbrite.com and search to reserve some tickets for the breakfast. You'll hear Peggy speak there. We still hear, Peggy, 25 years after the president left office, we hear pundits and analysts saying that Republicans need another Ronald Reagan. And what they mean, I think, is someone who's principled, someone who's clear about those principles and communicates them in a way that regular people can understand, and someone who's optimistic, someone who makes other people feel better about themselves. That's a rare quality that I'm sure he held even after leaving office.
Absolutely. And he believed that our country was unique in that we, the people, tell the government what to do, not the other way around. And he truly believed in limited government and in self-governance and in restraint fiscally. And he believed that we, the people, do know what's best for our homes, for our families, for our communities, for our schools, and that Washington should not be dictating from top-down, one-size-fits-all policies. And so he really loved America. He loved the people of America. He was very proud of them and wanted to empower them, not control them. And so he clearly was the right person for the right time, and great things happened under Ronald Reagan. But I think our next Ronald Reagan will not maybe look exactly like Ronald Reagan, but will, again, be the right person for the right time and restore that freedom to we the people. And I appreciate Americans for Prosperity Foundation for hosting my trip out here and for all they're doing to champion those same great themes and causes and principles that Ronald Reagan stood for.
In his time after leaving office, what did he want to accomplish? He could have done anything, I'm sure, in terms of spokesman, statesman. He could have spent all day on the ranch. He could, after you're president, I think you could get the right to do whatever you want. What did the president want to do in his time after leaving office?
Well, he was very careful, especially leaving his vice president behind, who then became the president, not to be the backseat driver. And so I think he was always very respectful of President Bush and his knowledge that only when you're in the Oval Office do you know all the information. And so he was very aware of that. I think there were a few things that really were important to him that he spoke out about and wrote op-ed pieces and things about. You know, the line item veto was incredibly important to him. He wished that that was something that would have gone through. It's something that multiple governors have and the president doesn't have, and felt that that was an essential part of having a balanced budget, which also was very important to him. And so I would say those are probably the two pieces of kind of unfinished business or things that were very important to him that he did speak out and write about a lot post-presidency. But just always, again, wanted to return to the people, the empowerment, and make them proud of America. This man loved America. He loved the people of America. And to see the pride that he felt when the flag would pass by, when, you know, he would see a military honor guard, when little kids would come in and sing patriotic songs. I mean, this man truly loved America, and it was evident in everything he did and said.
Peggy Grande with us. It's Ronald and Scot on WROK. Peggy served as President Reagan's personal assistant for a decade after he left office. What do you take away from your time with the president? What do you still implement in your day-to-day life that perhaps the president taught you?
Well, how do you sum up anything like that in one sentence? I love one little quote that the president was known for saying, and I just think it sums up so much of what he stood for and what he was about. And it says, live simply, love generously, care deeply, speak kindly, and leave the rest to God. And I think so well, I keep that on my desk now, I think so well it sums up his life, his leadership, his legacy, and the lasting impact that he's had on my life, in particular the life of my family, and then, of course, across the nation and around our world.
Outside of President Reagan, which would be a good enough name in and of itself, who was perhaps the biggest, most impressive person you met on the world stage during your time with the president?
Well, I don't want to be a name dropper, so, you know. And I'll bring lots of pictures tomorrow. I've got a lot of personal slides. But, I mean, there were definitely times you'd turn your head and see Gorbachev would be visiting, or Margaret Thatcher. I think one of the most powerful ones was the tiniest little visitor we had, which is Mother Teresa. And you looked at her weathered hands and her gnarled dusty almost feet, and you just pictured her walking the streets of Calcutta and all the people that she served during her ministry there, and to see these giant icons of legacy and leadership right there, up close and personal. You know, I still look at my own pictures and almost pinch myself. Was this really my life? Is this a dream? It's really surreal. You know, now I'm a proud mom of 4 kids, and, you know, life is busy and suburban and very ordinary. But I look back at these pictures and think, what an amazing life Ronald Reagan had, and how fortunate I was just to be one little part of it and be the fly on the wall and have a front row seat to watch it all happen. Really, really an honor and a privilege.
Peggy Grande with us for just another minute. It's Riley and Scot on WROK. She's in Dixon this morning. Americans for Prosperity Foundation, the Ronald Reagan birthday celebration breakfast starts at 7:30. Brandywine Inn. You can also reserve the seats RSVP at eventbrite.com and search for this event. 2016 is around the corner. I wonder if you think the president could give advice to any of the candidates, no one specifically, but whoever the nominee ends up being. If he could offer one piece of advice as we head toward 2016, what do you think it would be?
I think they need to be true to themselves. You know, there's all kinds of messaging that comes from what the people want to hear, what even advisors want to be said. And I think they really need to be true to themselves. And if they love America, if they're in touch with who they are and who they're not, we're going to get a really clear view of our choices at the ballot box. And we just want somebody who sincerely is true to who they are, wants to serve America. And I think we need to be patient. It should be a long process. You know, in 1976, Ronald Reagan was not our guy. In 1980, a lot of people thought he wasn't our guy. And, you know, history will tell otherwise, that he was our guy. That was the right thing. And so I think it's a long process. We need to be patient. We need to give these men right now that are in the race, possibly a woman, the right to speak, to articulate their ideas, and just be very open and let the process work out.
All right, Peggy.
It's exciting, though. I think we have a lot of good options.
Don't we? I mean, really, not to disparage the candidates from 2012, but the variety and the governors and senators and doctors and the depth and the quality of the candidates this time around is so encouraging.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be part of the process. I'm excited to meet and hear from all these possible candidates. Nobody's yet announced. So it's very exciting, and I do agree. I think we've got lots of variety. I think we've got people who are passionate about America, have great new, fresh ideas for America, and so I'm really enthusiastic about that.
All right, Peggy Grande, COO of the Quiggle Group and President Reagan's personal assistant for 10 years post-presidency. Enjoy your time in Dixon today as help wish Ronald Reagan a birthday celebration.
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to it. Bring your 2-year-old. Come on out.